Well, greetings, COMTO family. I am April Rye, President and CEO for the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials, and I am hosting our third edition of COMTO's Leadership Chats on behalf of our chair, Ms. Tanya Adams. My guest today is Dr. Tamara Smith, Associate Vice President and Senior Project Manager at AECOM. Now, in this role, Dr. Smith is responsible for planning, overseeing, and managing projects of all sizes from concept to completion. She does hold a doctoral degree in organizational leadership, and her doctoral research study implored the status of women in STEM leadership positions. Can't think of a more timely topic. Dr. Smith, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, April. It's my pleasure being here.
I'm so excited that I got the chance to have this chat with you. And I can't wait to dig into your story because I think there's so much that people may not know about the other side of you. So the professional side, which we're going to talk about, but also a little bit about your background. Can you share with us a little bit about your background and also talk to us about your role at AECOM?
Sure, absolutely. I must first say I'm a born Jamaican. I was born and raised in Jamaica, single family home, my mom and my siblings, 6 brothers and sisters. Um, I'm a lover of life. I'm a mother. I started my career here in the transportation and infrastructure by accident. I like to tell this story. I started off out of school. I have a business degree. I graduated from Nova Southeastern University with a professional management degree. And I needed a job before I was working at McDonald's, and I needed a job. And so I got this 30 days gig at Washington Group. It's one of the AECOM companies that were, transitioned over the mergers over many years. And I took the job 30 days. In 30 days, I questioned why the demographics looked the way it was, why the office was the way it was. And I was fortunate enough to have someone who whispered in my ears and say, stick around and learn more. And I would say almost 22 years later, here I am with AECOM. I have transitioned from, back then it was called a receptionist. So I've transitioned from that position, administrative assistant to a project manager assistant, to a manager, to a senior project manager, and now the associate vice president and senior project manager here in our transportation department. So it's been quite the journey for me here at AECOM, and I've learned a lot along it, and I'm pretty sure there's much more to go.
That is phenomenal. And I love that you shared your humble beginnings because I think sometimes we don't hear enough about where people start. We just see them shining in a leadership role, but we don't know the journey that took them there. And sometimes when I share about my own journey, some people know that I started my career as a sign language interpreter, much different from what I do now. But every single leader that I know has a curved mountain road leadership journey, not a straight, unobstructed highway. And that's okay. It's okay that there's twists and turns. So I appreciate that. And thank goodness to whoever that was who whispered in your ear and said, stick around. Thank you to that person.
Yes, actually, I spoke to him last night and he said, okay, I'll be joining.
I love it. I love it. So that's really important. Your background, that really guides the perspective that helps you do the work you do each day. Talk about your lived experience and how you feel like that helps you make important decisions in the work that you do at AECOM.
Well, April, as a leader and a senior project manager in the transportation and infrastructure sectors, I've found that my lived experiences greatly shape the perspective of I bring to my work each day. The formative years of my development are foundational in who I am, and it significantly contributes to the perspective that guide the work I do in my teams, with my clients, with stakeholders. I learned early of the importance of adaptability because of my humble beginnings and how I was raised and life experiences. I had to learn how to be flexible, adaptable. Persistence was actually necessary for my development, commitment, personal autonomy. I learned that hard work and discipline was key elements to success, and I had to apply them very well. So from there, I had to, learn about tenacity and the importance of respect. I always like to highlight what I learned, the Jamaican culture as a child growing up, the importance of respect for every human being that I came across in life's journey. I learned early in life that respect was not just a choice, but it was an expectation that had to be met. And that is important for me now as we talk about equity, as we talk about how we manage in our teams, as I deal with each individual that brings about their uniqueness to my team, recognizing the need for respect. Now, I was fortunate also to be exposed to diverse groups in my adolescent years, interacting with peers from various backgrounds as I, ventured into secondary education has helped me to gain an interpersonal interactions, which helps now professionally for me how I connect with my colleagues and clients. It helps me to understand the value of diverse perspectives, cultivating an inclusive environment where all the team members feel empowered to contribute to their, with their unique insights and talents. I clearly understand that as a project manager, I am not the only one who is doing the work. Often, you're the one who makes, sign a paper or oversee, and you have to, check the numbers and make sure you're actually within scope on schedule, and you're within budget as well. But I rely on each member in my team to contribute, and I'm able to, from my lived experiences, to welcome that diversity and welcome it from the group of professionals. Now, I must say that I get the pleasure of working with a diverse group of professionals who bring so much talent to my projects here at AECOM. And fortunate enough, we've spent many years and many projects going along. And I know that there are times that I need to have shared leadership where I need to step back and allow someone to bring their expertise to the table and listen, So that communication is also necessary, and it's something that I've developed over time, because this affords the success in what I do for AECOM and making contribute to AECOM's success in this industry as well. Now, I mentioned to you earlier about adaptability and the importance of that. It is used professionally and development, because as you realize in this industry, it's always changing now. The way we worked before 5-10 years ago, it's completely different from what we're doing. How we communicate, how we collaborate is different. So embracing change and positively responding to uncertain and unwelcome situations is something that I bring to AECOM, and it is contributory from my lived experiences. We realize also in project management, there are uncertainties too. They may be out of scope work, and that wasn't planned. There's no budget for that. You may not have necessary resources, but to be responsive to change. As a leader, being responsive to change is also is beneficial, because I see now that we're changing the way how policies are done, so we can meet unprotected groups in our industry. And we recognize that change is inevitable. Change will happen. So responding to change and with the dynamics that we work with every day, and not necessarily compromising the project goals, is something that my lived experiences have helped me to do my job in what I do.
So many gems in there. I have so many little notes I'm scribbling of gems that you've stated. I love what you said about adaptability. Really, that comes from lived experience. The ability to be adaptable comes from diverse perspectives and lived experience. And it allows us to embrace the uncomfortable by having diverse perspectives at the table. So valuable. And I think that clearly having diverse perspectives at the table, it drives innovation, because it allows all those different ideas and approaches to be embraced. And also I hear that you clearly lead by example, and that's really important. We can't just talk the talk, we've got to walk the walk. So really appreciate that. So, okay, something a little more personal. How do you fuel your brain? What are you reading right now? What's on your bookshelf? What or what's off your bookshelf and on your bedside table that you're reading right now?
I think I've read this book maybe 100 times. I was gifted this book by my best friend many years ago, and I shelved it until a few years I was in a rut and I needed something, and I picked it up, and I haven't put it down since. I have the hard copy. I have it on in audio. It's called The Complete Works of Florence Scovel Shinn. It is
The audience, the complete work. I'm trying to write it.
The Complete Works of Florence Scovel Shinn. It is a group of, it's actually 4 books in one. It's The Game of Life and How to Play It, The Secret Door to Success, Your Word is Your Wand, and The Power of the Spoken Word. So I have that book, the compilation of the book, and I fuel my brain with that book. My go-to books are the ones that feed my mind and my brain. I know I'm in academia, and there are times I have to step away and go into research, or go to look at something that it's to substantiate some data or something I have to say, because I like to use substantiated information. But for the most part, it's definitely The Complete Works of Florence Scovel Shinn. It's by my bedside. It's on my phone. It's on everything.
That is amazing. I am writing that down. We're gonna.
It's a good read. I recommend it. Highly recommend it.
That's awesome. Our Emerging Leaders Committee just started a new book club called the Fill Your Cup Book Club, and they're reading the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma right now. So I really appreciate that. Just reading things that can fuel you and help you to live more clean and more decisive. And I really appreciate you sharing what you say you have read over 100 times. I definitely am going to be putting that on my bedside pretty soon. I got to order it first.
Right.
So it's Black History Month. And this year, we also celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. How do we address equity for protected groups? We know that there's a little controversy in our country with regard to diversity programs and things like that. But what would you say about how we can continue to address equity, understanding our landscape that we're living in right now?
Before I give you what I really want to tell you about what I think about it, I will give you, my overview of that and what's going on now in our country about, the focus of diversity and equity. But for us to continue, 60 years later, we're having this conversation still. I really think, though, we have made some progress. We do. We have, because now we're openly having conversation. There are policies and procedures in place, and people are at least viewing equity as important. So we continue to make equity a topic at the forefront of our minds, and consistently take action to ensure that we live in a world that sees everyone as equal. The dialogue is necessary surrounding equity. I think the more we talk about it, eventually, hopefully, we get to that place where we don't have to no longer talk about it, but we continue to talk about it. In organizations where we create an inclusive and respectful industry here in transportation and infrastructure, where individuals feel that sense of belonging. And eventually we get to the place where there's no longer a topic, but equity is normalized. Now, culture has a lot to do with it. And, organizational, why we can change our organizational culture, not just make it a topic and create these ERGs and put these policies and procedures, but make it a culture. What I find about culture, being a Jamaican, I find that no matter how far away I am from home, I'm cultured, where there's some things that are innate and there's something that we're learned, and I understand that, and that's how I do what I do every day. So I think once we start making this culture where we put equity at the forefront of what we do, we check the measures. What are we measuring goals to? We check how we hire. We're purposeful and intentional with our hiring practices. We're purposeful and intentional with our the training and education that we offer. We're purposeful and intentional also about how do we provide career trajectory to advancement for all these groups, unprotected groups, the protected groups in our industry. So these are the things on an organization that we can do as leaders, as individuals within transportation and infrastructure to continue, I would say, the fight, because it is a fight until we actually win. But this is what I really want to say. I would take it a step further, April, and personally ask each person to examine themselves, because I think for us to really get there, we need to start analyzing our own subconscious thoughts. Let's become aware of what we think when we're not even realizing it. The subconscious thoughts from these impressions form these impressions in our minds, and be good or bad. And that is what results in how we do what we do and how we treat each other every day. So impressing our subconscious mind with the proper ideas, the proper images, and the beliefs is so important in addressing equity for the protected groups. Now, as individuals in this industry, I charge each of us, myself included, to start examining ourselves to make sure that, we see people as people and not from their differences. And I think once we get to that point, then we'll start having normalcy where we don't have these conversations. But until then, I say we continue to put in place the policies, the procedures, the training, educational opportunities, and continue this fight.
Ooh, so many gems again. I love how you said it's a fight until we win. You're 100% right. And even though this is a little bit of, it's a divisive time to be focused on equity and diversity, we have to keep talking about it until equity becomes business as usual. Absolutely. So we appreciate your personal support and AECOM support and all the COMTO members and partners who we call equity champions for being willing to continue the conversation. And I also want to just say how much we appreciate your service on COMTO's Strategic Planning Committee, because our Strategic Planning Committee is data-driven and data-informed. And even COMTO is looking within itself to say, how are we measuring our own success with regard to diversity and equity initiatives? And how diverse are we as a family? So you're right, we have to look internally and do a self-evaluation to say, what am I doing to contribute positively? We could literally talk about this for a whole 30 minutes, but yeah, I do want to move to your doctoral research, because it's so perfect for the things that keep CEOs up at night. It was centered around women in STEM leadership positions. And we know workforce recruiting and retention is one of the top concerns of anyone in a decision-making position within transportation and infrastructure. So what would you say, how can we inspire the next generation to consider a career in STEM and stay in those careers and ascend to a leadership role like yourself?
There's so many things. This research, I must say, is personal. It was personal because I found myself being, in the protected groups. I needed to understand why it was so, and why I saw imbalances in the industry, and I wanted to see how I could effect change. I want to be a change agent. That's the reason for me to do this research and to select that topic. Now, to answer your question, as my research results have found, because I'm going to use not just things that I think, but I'm going to use data results now. Early STEM awareness and educational opportunities definitely is recommended for us to attract those groups that we want to bring into our industry. My research focused on females, and I honestly think that the results were substantiated with other researchers. So bringing these younger females or younger generation into, whether it be male, females, not identified, into our industry and becoming interested in STEM starts with early STEM awareness from K1 all the way to K12. And when we do that and we facilitate that in the industry, it's important for us to have representation. it doesn't matter. I remember asking a group of high schoolers a question about, going into the high school to talking to them about careers. And one of the response I got was, they don't even look like me. Do they even know? They're not from our community. So we have to be careful about representation when we try to bring about the early STEM education and have these educational, you know, STEM nights and these things that we do for career attraction. To do that, we also want to promote the female college enrollments as well, to join our workforce, because we know from college that's where they will do that. And in order to do that, I think we go out in the schools. We also showcase that in transportation and infrastructure in STEM, it's not just one discipline. I think people shy away from our industry because they believe that when they think of STEM, they think of engineering or architectural or somebody in the construction field. But we do have a diverse group of professionals here. I am a project management professional, but I work in transportation. So we have to be very careful when we recruit and when we go out, what we're telling and who we're recruiting, because there may be a group of students who just may join our industry, but they shy away because they may not be mathematically inclined. So they think they don't fit into, one of their known career choices, not knowing that there are other options for them here in our industry and they can belong as well. So that is one of the things we do to attract them, to make sure that who we're sending out in industry, we have good team composition with members who are visible and non-visible differences. So that's a good thing to do. Now, enhanced mentorship programs. I am big on mentorship because I have seen where mentorship has helped me in many ways than one. And findings from my study highlighted the importance of mentorship for women in STEM when they do get here. So first I spoke of how we can try to attract them. Now we say when they get here, we're going to mentor them. For those who specifically are aspiring to attain leadership position, it has found that the pathway for women to advance in the workplace is through mentoring. Now, mentoring is critical. We know that as researchers, but we want to make sure we don't just put a mentorship program in place at the organizational level where it's not easily accessible by everyone. Mentorship programs should be easily accessible by all employees. So when leaders establish this, it must be an all-encompassing, purposeful mentorship program that are easily accessible by all employees from even a new hire acclimation period. So workplace advocacy is another thing, April. I think, aspiring leaders, I remember, you don't get to into the rooms where the conversations are being had. You don't get into those closed doors as you're aspiring for leadership position. But your immediate supervisors, your managers, your teammates, maybe even your leader within the group, within the region, they know who you are. So that's why the importance of advocacy. So when opportunities do arise, someone can say, I know April, or I know Tammy, and as such, the importance of us as leaders to get to know and identify those that we can advocate for and do so. Similar sponsorship. Another thing we could do is beyond mentorship too, is mentees or proteges. So women in the workplace who are perceived as proteges could benefit from mentor support and advocacy. Organizational development, that is the next recommendation. Organizational development, the culture, what we do as leaders or policies or procedures. What are we doing as an organization to bring about that diversity and make it a core ingredient in our employment policy, in our retention policy, in our promotion policy? What are we doing to make it inclusive, and how can we embed that into what we do? And it must be supported at the executive and the C-suite level. So the decision making cannot just be at at one level. It has to be something that is embedded as a culture in the organization, where yes, it is something that needs to get done. We're looking at advancing women. We're making that priority. We're making advancing others to leadership. We're providing the support that contribute to the change, the way that people think as well. I think as leaders, when we have a clear pathway of how you aspire to the next level, that gives us women and others, anybody aspiring to the leadership, an idea of what they need to do to get there. I think not having a clear path is like there's no vision. You don't know what you need to do to get to the next level. So it needs to have some development programs where career pathways to leadership, if you may. And with that, everybody knows, what do I need to do to get to that next level? Now, I recommend for aspiring female in the positions that they got to also have some autonomy of their career development. You can't have the policies, the procedures, everything in place as an organization, and then they don't take responsibility to upskill, to get the necessary education that is required for that job that they seek. So it is also a personal responsibility as well. So it's important for me to mention that.
I think there's some CEOs who are going to want to read your doctoral dissertation because it's a roadmap of this problem, of how to solve this problem that I don't know one CEO or one decision maker who's not concerned about workforce issues. And even going back to your first point about making sure that we showcase the possible in early education, it's so important. And I know coming up, a lot of our chapters participate in the Garrett A. Morgan program, and they're engaging at the community level with young people to showcase careers in STEM at the K through 12 level. It's so important. And I also loved what you had to say about mentorship and making sure that it's easy to access. Sometimes those mentorship programs are, well-intentioned, but we have to make sure that at all levels it's available for a person to take part in and benefit from. And then the piece that you said about sponsorship, so important, and advocacy, making sure that even when you're not in the room, someone can speak up for you. And then also taking personal ownership for that journey, literally a roadmap for this problem that I know keeps many decision makers up at night. I cannot believe we're at the end of our 30 minutes. Time flies when you're having an amazing time. But I want to make sure that I talk to you quickly about this partnership that AECOM has with COMTO. AECOM has been a partner of COMTO for many, many years, and AECOM employees are so engaged with the work of COMTO as chapter presidents and leaders and members across our 40 chapters in North America. Can you talk a little bit about why this partnership is so valuable as we work to advance equity in transportation?
Absolutely. The partnership with COMTO and AECOM holds significance and significant importance to us in this industry in advancing the shared, goals, values of diversity, equity, and inclusion in transportation. AECOM has a commitment to build diverse teams, fostering inclusivity in the workplace, and we integrate equity considerations in every project that we do. So with COMTO's mission to ensure opportunities for minorities, individuals, and the veterans and businesses through leadership training and professional development and partnership building, or goals or visions resonates with each other. So it's important for us to continue collaborating with COMTO, AECOM to collaborate with COMTO. We strengthen the collective impact to create more inclusivity and have that representation as well. And ultimately, we contribute to building a better world where everyone can thrive within our industry and infrastructure. So the work that we do, or the partnership that we have with COMTO, I know it has been many years, and we look forward to strengthen that as we continue to work to make this industry a better place, an industry where everyone feels that sense of belonging, and we're attracting more to join us.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our special guest, Dr. Tamara Smith, Associate Vice President and Senior Project Manager at AECOM. So many amazing gems. You can watch the full episode on YouTube if you want to find that book recommendation. Just search COMTO National. I hope all of you will join us next week for a conversation with Sharon Jean-Baptiste of Jacobs on Thursday, February 29th at 12:30 p.m. And you can learn more about the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials at COMTO.org. Thank you so much again, Dr. Smith. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, April. We'll talk soon.
Take care.